Good evening, I'm Jose Cardenas. We'll talk about state budget cuts to career and technical education and the impact on students across Arizona. And learn about an organization helping children in Valley schools become proficient readers before they finish the 3rd grade. Plus, in Sounds of Cultura, SOC, an exhibition featuring artists investigating stories marginalized by the media. All this coming up next on Horizonte.
Funding for Horizonte is made possible by contributions by the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station.
Thanks for joining us. Governor Ducey and the state legislature have endorsed and protected huge tax cuts for businesses, but at the same time, beginning July 1st, budget cuts will impact the Joint Technical Education District program, known as JTED. JTEDs are school districts that offer career and technical education programs to students at partner school districts, a source of skilled candidates that businesses need. Joining me to talk about these issues, Gregory Donovan, Superintendent for the Western Maricopa Education Center, known as WestMEC, and Tina Norton, Assistant Superintendent and Chief Financial Officer for the Pima County JTED District. She's also a board member for the Association for Career Technical Education. Tina, Greg, thank you both for joining us on Horizonte. Greg, you know, as important as I've come to understand these JTEDs are, I'm not sure many people know about them, so tell us what they are and what they do.
Thank you. In the state of Arizona, in 1991, the Arizona legislature, in cooperation with support from business and industry, passed state statutes allowing communities to vote to come together to support through an additional tax more career and technical education. So starting in 1992, in the East Valley Institute of Technology, the East Valley of Maricopa County, the first joint technical system in Arizona was created. Since then, and over the last 20 years almost, 2014, there is now a JTED in every county in the state of Arizona, Joint Technical Education District.
And I think, you know, at least people my vintage would think of technical education as shop, but it's much more than that.
So much more. And those that may have gone to school in other states, historically, they were called county VOTECs, regional training centers, area vocational schools, where students would get on a bus and leave their local high school to go over to another's campus for vocational training. Today, as you said, it is so much more than that. That's why we've moved away from the term vocational to career and technical education. We are about preparing young people for the workforce, industry credentialing, licensure, and continuing education.
So you even have pre-law courses, as I understand.
Yes, we do. Any licensable occupation. So all of your medical professions, all of your traditional trades, cybersecurity, all of those types of things fall underneath this. Law and public safety, pre-law, all of those programs fall under our umbrella.
So how many kids do the JTEDs impact?
In the state of Arizona, we are currently impacting about 90,000 students in career and technical education. That represents a membership of about 105 school communities. And the reason I call that is that community had to vote to join and pay that tax to assure that their young people would have access to career and technical programs.
Tina, let's talk a little bit more about how the JTEDs are funding. I mean, there have been several references that Greg has made to taxes, but exactly how does it work?
Well, JTED is funded like every other school district, so we're funded on basically on how many students are participating. But whereas school district is funded based on a child equals 1, each child, in a JTED setting, the child is fractional enrollment because we're not educating in the areas of academic, math, science, those kinds of things. We're focusing on CTE. So the majority of our students get 0.25 funding of that one, and then that builds the JTED budget, and then the state. We get the tax rate that comes from the local taxpayer, and then the state aid from the state budget covers that.
Now, some of the statements I've read indicate that at least the supporters of JTEDs feel that the most recent budget cuts may be the death knell for JTEDs. Why is that?
Well, when you think about it, in 2011, JTEDs, the state was funding about $92 million towards JTEDs in our state. As you heard Mr. Donovan say, we've added districts to those JTEDs since 2011, and we've added JTEDs since then. But currently, we're receiving $69 million in state aid, JTEDs as a whole in the state of Arizona. And the budget cut that takes effect in 16-17, it'll be closer to $40 million.
So even before the most recent budget cuts, or the ones that are proposed and will go into effect soon, funding had been cut substantially.
Yes, significantly, and one of the biggest reasons is because in 2011, when we had the severe downturn in the economy, we received a cut to the 9th grade population. So 9th graders are no longer funded within our programs where they were previous to that downturn.
So, Greg, is it an exaggeration to say that this may be the end of the JTEDs if these budget cuts go through, the most recent ones? I think it's like 2%.
Well, I would hesitate to say the end of JTEDs, but it is certainly a continued downward spiral. Our population today in West Meck is 6,000 students less than it was 5 years ago.
Because you don't have the money to deal with these students.
We don't have the money to deal with the students. We don't have the money to help support those programs in the local high schools. The entire intent of the original legislation was to put the additional funds into the program that it costs to run them. I know this is the traditional one, but everyone could agree that auto mechanics, a industry current auto mechanics program, costs much more than a literature class to run.
And so you need the money, or you just can't do this.
That's correct. You need the money.
So what can be done about it? I know there's been some suggestion that maybe this was an unintended consequence of the budget negotiations. People didn't, kind of similar to the discussions that's being that are being held about charter schools, that maybe legislators didn't intend to have this kind of impact. What's going on there?
Well, because our graduation rate is 98% as opposed to a 72% graduation rate statewide, legislators, the governor, they see the value of our programs. They see the impact. So the intent certainly is to not have fewer kids in the programs, we would believe. So the cuts don't take into effect until 16-17. So we're very hopeful that either the governor calls a special session, and if so, includes this issue to fix it, or that very early in the upcoming legislative session in January, that they introduce a bill with an emergency clause to remove the cuts that were put into statute that will go into implementation in 16-17.
And Greg, we launched right into the discussion of the budget cuts and the impact, but Tina touched on a very important point. The benefits of these programs are not simply the learning that these kids get, but it helps on the graduation rates and has other long-lasting impacts for the kids in the state.
We have many students who come to us who have never been able to attach themselves to the traditional system. The relevance, relationship, and rigor. We all asked it at some point in school, why am I learning this? Well, when you're in a program that you're interested in and you see that practical application, parent after parent, grandparent after grandparent tells me that they had a child that struggled or was an average student at best, and by the time they're halfway through our program, they're on the honor roll academically as well as exceeding well with us. They see a reason for being in school. They're excited about school. They see the relationship of government, mathematics, science, practical application of all the things they're hearing in those other classes.
Where's the business community on this? I saw a piece by Doug Pruitt, the chairman of the board of Sunt Construction, decrying these budget cuts and what's happening. But is that a lone voice, or do you have strong support from the business community on
We
this?
have very strong support from the business community statewide. There is a little confusion because a lot of our business people believe that business taxes need to be reformulated and they want those taxes reduced. But where does education money come from? Taxes. And so we have some of that. But with the graying of the American workforce, there is a lot of concern among the large business community. Where is the next generation of technically trained workers coming from? It's not there.
Tina, we talked about a 2% budget cut. Is there any budget cut that can be absorbed? I mean, some of what I read on the other side of the coin is, look, everybody took a hit, and JTEDs have to step up and take a hit just like everybody else did. But what would be acceptable if anything?
Well, certainly we did sustain those significant cuts in 11, but we understand that everybody felt pain in this budget and everybody received a cut. The cut to the JTED was significantly impactful because there were two places that there was a cut. There was a cut to the district side of the equation. I mentioned that each student counts for one on the district side of funding. That's where the largest cut was seen. It was cut 7.5%, but it was 7.5% of one. Then on the JTED side, we get the 0.25 funding, and we've received a 7.5% there too. So the total cut is $30 million, $23 million, which is on the district side, $7 on the JTED side. I mean, we haven't talked about what we could survive and what would be sustainable, but certainly restoring that district side of the cut, which is the most significant part, is the one of most urgency.
Well, we'll be watching this closely over the next few months. Thank you both so much for joining us on Horizonte to talk about it.
Thank you.
AARP Experience Corps is a program of volunteers age 50 and older who are helping children become proficient readers before they reach third grade. Last year, before they finished third grade rather, last year the City of Phoenix Read On Initiative hosted the AARP Experience Corps program in 10 school districts. Here to talk more about the program is Tim Valencia, Youth and Education Manager for Read On Phoenix Experience Corps Tutoring Program. Tim, welcome to Horizonte.
Thank you.
Tell us about the program. How does it work?
Well, the program is a targeted, sustained tutoring program that goes into the classroom. So what we do is we look for volunteers who are 50 and older, who are trained in our curriculum and have the skills to offer one-on-one training. The Read On Phoenix initiative was launched a couple years ago, and the mayor decided that there would be no third graders in his city who would fail at third grade and would become proficient readers. And so we launched this program. It's one-on-one tutoring in 10 school districts, serving about 300 kids a year.
So you talk about trained volunteers. What kind of training do they receive?
They receive specific training on how to conduct tutoring one-on-one. And specifically, we look at fluency. So we teach those tutors how they can teach fluency one-on-one tutoring with those students.
So as I understand it, each volunteer goes twice a week and has a certain number of kids that they work with.
That is correct. So the minimum or our standard would be 5 hours a week, which would equate to 2.5 hours a day, 2 times a week. And these tutors will see 4 students a day or a week. So they'll see them, for example, on Tuesday, they'll see 4 students, and on Thursday, they'll see the same 4 students for approximately 35 weeks.
And what kind of impact has the program had so far?
This is our first pilot program, and the impact that we have seen has been tremendous. We have seen that 98% of the students that are receiving tutoring have increased educational gains. We have seen that fluency, words read per minute, average increase is around 50%. So we have seen some significant gains in offering this one-on-one tutoring program within our school system.
And we've been showing some pictures of the volunteers with the students. You provide the materials, or does it vary from one school to the next?
No, we provide all the materials. We want to make sure this is very easy and simple for the school districts. There is no requirement for the school districts to provide any type of curricula. They do approve the curricula that we use, and we use the same curricula throughout all 10 schools in all 5 school districts.
So is this at no cost then to the school districts?
It is at very low cost. What we would like is more or less space. We are looking for office supplies, so the cost is very minimum. And typically the school districts are willing to provide the space that is required to do the tutoring.
How many volunteers do you have right now?
We have approximately 90 volunteers. Our goal was 100, so we were just shy, around 10 volunteers. We're looking to go to 3 to 5 more schools, which will require around 60 to 80 more volunteers. So we're looking almost to double our volunteer size.
And how does somebody get involved in the program?
They can call us within the City of Phoenix or look up readonphoenix.org. There's a ton of information on how they can volunteer. We have information sessions coming up through June and July that they can come and learn more about the program and how they can volunteer here within the city of Phoenix.
Now those information sessions, in fact, I looked at the schedule, it looks like you have 2 a month going through September.
That is correct.
They go to both of them, or it's just one that they have to attend?
It's just one that they have to attend, and really we just try to provide as much information about the program and what it's going to entail, what the commitment looks like, be very transparent. It is a huge commitment. It's a whole year commitment, 5 hours a week for 35 weeks. So we want to make sure they understand what they're getting into. At that point in time, then we offer a specific training around how to teach fluency. And that's a 2-day training that they will participate in before they start our program.
So we're almost out of time. Just one last question. In your view, what has been the most either surprising or most satisfactory result that you've seen in the program?
Not only are we seeing that these students are becoming better readers or fluent readers, but we're also seeing some anecdotal information that we want to start capturing, and that is a decrease in chronic absenteeism and fewer behavioral referrals in the school. And so we want to start tracking this particular data set to show that not only are we improving our fluency among our readers, but we're also reducing chronic absenteeism and have fewer behavioral problems within our school system.
Sounds like a great program. Thanks for joining us on Horizonte to discuss it.
Thank you.
To find out more information about what's on Horizonte, go to azpbs.org and click on the Horizonte tab at the top of the screen. There you can access many features to become a more informed Horizonte viewer. Watch interviews by clicking on the video button or by scrolling down to the bottom of the page for the most recent segments. Learn about more specific topics like arts and culture and immigration. You can also find out what's on Horizonte for the upcoming week. If you would like an RSS feed, a podcast, or you want to buy a video, that's all on our website too. Other features include our collection of website links and a special page for educators. While you're there, show your support for Horizonte with just one click. Discover all that's on Horizonte. Visit azpbs.org, Horizonte today. Here at Horizonte, we want to hear from you. If you have comments, story ideas, or questions, email us at horizonte@asu.edu.
In Sounds of Cultura, SOC, Hidden Histories in Latin American Art is an exhibition that features Latino and Latin American artists who investigate histories or stories that have been marginalized by the media, historical events, and present circumstances. Here to talk about the exhibition is Dr. Vanessa Davidson, the Sean and Joe Lampe Curator of Latin American Art for the Phoenix Art Museum. Vanessa, welcome back to Horizonte. You always have fascinating things to tell us, and this one is a particularly interesting exhibition. We're going to be showing some pictures as we go through this interview. The first two are what I think you refer to as installation shots,
yes,
that kind of give us a sense for the feel and the ambiance of this particular exhibition.
So Hidden Histories in Latin American Art is a small-scale exhibition that's very powerful. It packs a very powerful punch despite its size. I've been thinking about these themes for many, many years now, but the opportunity arose to focus on them thanks to a very generous gift from Diana Bruce Holly, who gave us the piece that you see right there on your screen. The Mexican artist Teresa Margolles' La Búsqueda, or The Search, which is a piece that she created in 2014. And this piece, which I'll talk about a little more detail in a moment, seems to me to epitomize an approach shared by many contemporary artists, both Latino and Latin American, which is an approach to socio-political themes that is at once poetic and polemical, and yet not propagandistic.
And the particular history story that's behind this one is the disappearance of the women in Ciudad Juárez,
yes,
just across the border from El Paso.
Precisely. So what Teresa Margolles had a residency in Juárez in 2014. So this work is very recent. And of course, Juárez may be known to some of us because of the scourge of female homicides called femicides and disappearances of young women in that city that's been taking place since the beginning of the early 1990s. What is so significant about this piece is that Teresa went to the center of Juarez and she relocated urban glass walls that you see, storefronts that you see in these images that have been papered with notices from desperate families seeking.
And we've got a close-up of one of the panels
exactly.
right here.
There are these desperate families who are seeking their mothers and daughters and sisters and cousins. Ayúdenos a localizarla, help us to find her. One of the most powerful elements beyond the very powerful nature of this piece visually is that it has a sound component as well. And the sound is the recording of the train that crosses Ciudad Juarez every day going to El Paso, bringing goods from Mexico to the United States and from the United States to Mexico without much information or resolution about.
You don't just hear the sound, you feel it.
You feel it. You feel the sound because it is tuned to such a frequency that it makes the glass panes themselves vibrate and tremble as if they were themselves alive. So it momentarily transports the viewer to Juarez, to the desperate family situation that so many are having to endure.
And you've got a number of artists featured in this, and we've got another installation shot that focuses on the work, I think, of Annie Lopez.
Yes, Annie Lopez is a wonderful artist. She's actually a fourth-generation Phoenician artist. And the work that you see here, the dress is called Naturalized Citizens, and what she has done is to create a series of dresses in 2013 using paper that's commonly used to make tamales.
And we've got a close-up there we're going to put up there, and people get a better sense, I think, of what you're talking about.
Of the intricacy of this beautiful dress. And what this dress represents, the tamale paper that she's used, she's modified with cyanotype prints that document the evidence of her family's legal status as Americans.
And her family's been here 5 generations. What's the point that she's trying to make here?
I think the point that she's trying to make here and in the following work, which we'll show, is that despite the fact that some Mexican Americans have been living here for so long and have such deeply embedded roots in this community, sometimes they're still made to feel like illegal aliens because of racial profiling and discrimination.
In some instances, we're talking about families that were here when Arizona was still part of Mexico.
Exactly. That's exactly the point. And if you'll show the second image, it's called Sighting Mexicans in Phoenix. It's an image of Annie's mother and her aunt from the 1960s walking gaily down a Phoenix street, oblivious of the targets that are on their heads and bodies. So again, this making the history of Phoenix, making the history of Mexican Americans living in this country more explicit. That's a history that's hidden, but something that bringing it out into the open and discussing it in a very frank way, in a way that might make some of us uncomfortable, because these are the issues that perhaps we would rather not think about.
And we're going to hear from Annie Lopez herself. She's going to be giving a lecture at the museum.
Precisely. She'll be at the Phoenix Art Museum on June 24th, which is a Wednesday, at 7 p.m. I want to remind everyone that the museum is open free to the public every Wednesday from 3 in the afternoon until 9 in the evening, and also on first Fridays from 6 to 9.
Now, we've already had one lecture by one of the artists featured in the exhibition. This is an Argentine artist, and we've got an image, a very powerful image that we want to put on the screen of the confrontations, the political confrontations. Tell us about this image.
This piece is called Enfrentados. It's by Graciela Sacco, who is an Argentine artist. It's from 2011, and I think that this is one of the works that especially resonates with us on an international level, because what you see in the image is a vintage image that she clipped from a newspaper many years ago of Argentine protesters confronting police across a wooden barricade in 1960s Argentina. And this image is itself imprinted upon a wooden barricade, so there's this circularity of meaning between the form and the content. But what I think is so compelling about this work in particular, among many others that are in the exhibition, is the way that it resonates in a contemporary context. Although this artist is deeply rooted in the sociopolitics of Argentina, this image could also represent protesters in Ferguson, Missouri, or in the Middle East. So this is a piece that is at once universal, historical, and contemporary.
And I should mention or ask, if I didn't already, when's the exhibition? What date does it run?
The exhibition runs from May 9th until August 23rd of 2015.
So plenty of time for people to get there.
Yes.
And as I understand it, you got something exciting coming up after that.
We do, and as a matter of fact, I'm not sure if you know, but we received a very generous bequest in 2013 of of almost 300 works of colonial art from the viceroyalties of Peru and also of New Spain, as Mexico is called.
And you've got one image that was restored here.
Thanks to the generosity of Sean and Joe Lampe, we have been able to restore and clean many of these paintings, such as the before and after images of the Virgin of Guadalupe that I'm showing you here. So for the first time in its history, the museum is showing an 18th century Mexican Virgen de Guadalupe in our galleries beginning on September 5th in an exhibition entitled Masterworks of Spanish Colonial Art from the Phoenix Art Museum's collection.
Another great exhibition, and we're out of time, but I know we have to have you back to talk about your recent trip to Cuba, so thanks so much for joining us this evening.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And that is our show for tonight. From all of us here at Horizonte and 8, thank you for watching. I'm Jose Cardenas. Have a good evening.
Funding for Horizonte is made possible by contributions by the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station.